Hello, Internet. Gino, that Pinguino Grieco here again with another episode of Deep Listens. Today is yet another episode, another entry into our Enter the Decagon series of Final Fantasy X. And I'm joined, as always, by Chris, Zombiepie Redacted. That snapping noise you hear is Chris's pride snapping. But also, he just opened a can of Vienna sausages because he hates himself.
Hello, Internet. I'm going to regret my life choices while we talk about Final Fantasy X. Oh, God, they're all connected. Oh, they're all stuck together. I can't get them out. All right.
Do you mean to tell me that this meat product that has been in a can for many, many months, in all likelihood? Oh, God. Oh, no. We're picking that up on mic. Oh, God. It's unpleasant. Welcome to our show.
Oh, it's unpleasant for you. Think how unpleasant it is for me.
I'm thinking that. It's very unpleasant. Welcome to our show again, listeners. Oh, God. We're going to be... Oh, no, you're drinking juice from the can. Oh, God.
Ah!
Why'd you do that to yourself?
Someone donated $100 to the Pencils of Promise thing, and I promised I'd do it.
Okay. You didn't have to do it, but he did it. I can vouch for it. I've seen it, and it hurts me.
Final Fantasy X, man.
Welcome.
Let's do this.
So we
Okay.
let me get back my focus. I wasn't prepared for that. He didn't tell me he was going to do this before we started. Great. Okay. So we are going to be discussing everything from when you pick up Riku to basically the Calm Lands in Final Fantasy X. But before we do that, we have feedback from one of our earlier episodes. Remember, if you want to send in...
I feel the cancer running through my veins.
Before we do that, remember, if you want to get in touch with the show, at DeepListensPod, DeepListensPodcast at gmail.com, or deeplistens.libsyn.com. Keep using our comment sections. That seems to be the most popular way to get feedback. So just keep doing that. So, this is an email we got over a month ago, but I misplaced it until now. And so we have this email from Ryan.
Buddy-o.
Ryan says, looking forward to hearing from Chris Zombiepie Redacted about his experience with the Blitzball system, which can be both rewarding when you do things right and frustrating depending on who you have recruited and the team matchups. Also, the frustration of being unable to recruit some players after certain sin attacks. Would highly recommend him looking up a Blitzball recruiting guide to make life a bit easier. Either way, looking forward to hearing more about FF10. So how are you liking Blitzball now that you're past your glorious moment of
I
winning
haven't played
the first game?
I played one after the main story mission. I don't like it. I still don't like it. I'm probably not going to do it at all.
That's fair.
So there are actual characters you can recruit that disappear if I haven't been recruiting them?
There's some people that after some sin attacks you can't get back to where they're from, like where you meet them. But there's a bunch of players who are pretty dang good who you can always find.
I'll look into it. I will keep an open mind and look into it and possibly... Is Waka's final weapon, or whatever the hell it is, actually worth it?
None of the final weapons in this game are worth it.
Celestial weapon.
Not a single one. Not a single one is worth it.
Because you can legitimately beat the game even without them?
Not just that, but the bigger problem is that you can get the weapons, and when you get the weapons, they are locked so that I don't think you get experience or AP when you're using them. Like there's or sphere point. It's like they all have some horrible drawback, and you need to acquire like this celestial mirror and then a couple of key items that are different for every character in order to unlock their true potential, and it's just a lot of hassle for not a lot of reward. The weapons aren't that much better than the stuff you can get, and you don't need them.
Yeah, you don't need them. If I can beat the game without them, then I'm probably not going to get them.
Yep, you can totally beat the game without them, and the easiest one to get is either Titus's or Yuna's. Those are the easiest ones to get, but even they are not easy. And the hard ones like Kimahri's, where you have to dodge fucking 300 thunderbolts in a row, just not worth it.
Oh my god, why would you do that? Why?
Because you love Kimahri. Because you love Kimahri.
The level of crazy stuff hidden in the background or hidden behind meaningless tasks in 10 is kind of ridiculous. It's ridiculous what they've put in the background, tucked away into the deep crevices of Final Fantasy X.
It's because you love Kimahri and you hate yourself.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I clearly ate this Vienna sausages and drank the juice in it, so clearly I hate myself.
That much is clear. So, Final Fantasy X. Remember, if you want to get in touch with the show, at deeplistenspod, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have comment sections. That seems to be the popular one. And deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. So, without further ado, after Riku emerges and then takes off her wetsuit or whatever the fuck she wears.
And shakes her ass to the front of the screen yet again.
Yep. This game loves zooming in on women's asses and breasts. It loves it so much.
Despite the fact that Riku and Yuna are underaged.
Yep. Both
That's
of them
not great.
Yep. Riku's like 15 or 16, I think. And Yuna's, I want to say 18?
Still not cool.
Still not cool.
Not cool.
Lulu is like 20, but that's old in Final Fantasy worlds.
But also, like, the fact that whenever Lulu gets a final attack or is victorious in battle, she just bends over so as that you can see her cleavage. That's a gift that keeps on giving. It doesn't stop. It keeps happening.
It will continue to happen. That is her only victory animation, so it will always happen.
Yeah, and I know we didn't talk about it because it's not that big of a deal. No one dresses like Lulu ever at all. She's got this ridiculous style of clothing that's just covered in belts, black, and she's just got all this heavy eye. No one dresses like her. She's not from a distinct culture. To Waka's defense, he comes from this tropical Hawaiian place.
I think Lulu is also from Besaid.
Then that double doesn't make sense.
Yeah. She just doesn't make sense. Like, she's got her own style. That's her thing. Almost every other character except maybe Auron just kind of matches where they're from.
Yeah.
Auron is a warrior monk, and he's a badass, and he lived in both Spira and Xanarkand, so sure, he's got his own style. Lulu she's just out there doing her thing. So, after you get Riku, you go to Guadosalam. You get a quick tutorial on, like, stealing chests in battle, which kind of sucks.
It's one of the few places where I think that there's enough freedom there to where you can tinker around with this new concept. But the chest dynamic is really weird because there are only a few or handful of places where you will see chests in battle. So when I played this sequence, I got pretty good at, you use steal. For the longest time, I thought that you had to use on the chests, but you use steal. And what kept getting me was I would forget, which command do I use if there's a chest in battle? Because the gap in between the last time that you had it right here and then the next time that you see chests in combat is pretty massive. It's a chasm that the game doesn't effectively cross.
Yeah, and I think there are only like 2 or 3 places in the entire game you can run into these special battles, so it's really kind of a half-baked thing to try and
It's a half-baked attempt to teach you the importance of steal, but steal is already important. Steal has already been a command that's steeped in Final Fantasy lore or the mechanics of the franchise. So I don't need to have this, like, you jingling these plastic keys in front of me. I knew what steal was and why steal was important.
Yeah, and the items that they give you are generally not
junk.
worth it. But you also learn about use, which is broken, or mix. You learn about Riku's overdrive, mix, which is Baroque.
Yeah, I quite enjoy mix. I agree that it is incredibly just downright broken, but it's real nice to have mix because there are times when I just get fed up with Final Fantasy X's bullshit, and then Riku will be in overdrive, and then I'll just do mix and look up the guide in terms of what is the hardest hitting attack that I can use to kill off this boss in a couple attacks, and boom, I'm done. I wish there were there was kind of like a menu system, or you could locate recipes. I wish there were fewer. I wish there was a way for you to learn specific mixes. Otherwise, if you play this legitimately, you're literally just combining two random items, possibly not getting what you need. The game says, hey, you can combine two items and then it creates some super cool thing for combat. But it doesn't really give you or direct you in terms of figuring out which combinations are most beneficial for your circumstances, whether it be damaging items or damaging mixes, general damage mixes, elemental mixes, guards or protects, or even just there are some weird mixes that I'm glad they put them in there. I just wish they surfaced how to get them, what the logic is, which items I can mix better.
Yeah, it's basically you look up a guide is how you figure out what the good mixes are. But once, like Final Fantasy V, I think every game with an alchemist is broken via mix, pretty much, if you want to break the game. And that is how I'm going to teach you how to break the game, is with mix, because it's broken.
It is broken. The weirdest part is when there are items that you gain that are basically only helpful or usable in mix.
I think some of those items are also useful if you're using the weapon crafting and armor crafting system or teaching GF's abilities.
Whatever.
But you don't need to use any of that. You don't even need to interact with it if you don't want to. Which Riku gives you access to that system of crafting armor and weapons, but it's not worth it.
The weirdest thing about Final Fantasy X is it is a child that thinks a mile a minute, and it doesn't have quite enough mechanical or narrative focus, or not as much as I would like. So where we ended last time, we were introduced to the idea that your summons can be leveled, you can teach them new attacks, you can customize your summons, and that applies to one character, but whatever. So we've added new depth to the summoning system. Now we are learning, by this point, we're learning about how you can change how you level up your overdrive or collect your overdrive. You don't just have to take damage. You can deal damage. You can deal victories. You can deal KOs. Then there's this new mix system. Each character has its own distinct overdrive, which I'm fine with. That's something that's distinct with each entry in the Final Fantasy series that has kind of limit breaks or final attacks. And then now we have this item or armor and weapon customization system, which just, again, adds in needless complexity to a game that's most enjoyable when it already has a lot of needless complexity. But what I enjoy, I've mentioned this on previous entries of the podcast, I enjoy Final Fantasy X in terms of when I play it, when it is a very kind of stringent taskmaster where the turn-based system is just as simple as can be. I'm the one who manipulates whose turn it is based off of the magic that I use, and it's very logical and methodical. Then it just starts adding in all these kind of weird ideas that don't necessarily do the best job about explaining to me what the benefit is in combat.
Yeah, I would say this game has too many features. It is at its best when it is rocks, paper, scissors, and each of the characters has a defined class and a defined role, and you kind of know what you're doing, and you're mixing characters in and out, and it's pretty frenetic for a game that has this kind of a true turn-based system instead of an active battle system. It flows pretty dang well, all things considering, but the problem at the end of the day is just that it's got several systems that it makes you believe are important, but they are not. And if it kind of makes this game, in terms of the Final Fantasy games you've played, it is the one that if you want to waste a ton of time, this will eat as much time as you want to throw at it. Because you can craft a bajillion items that aren't that useful, or you could level up all of your Aeons to be, monsters with all of the abilities. You can level a whole lot of things that you never need. So, question, you said you had questions for me. Did you want to ask them before we get deeper?
Sure. There are a number of things that I've noticed in combat that it's just, what is this? Why? What? Huh? So it's Dipshit Corner, where I'm a dumbass and I gotta ask my questions.
Welcome to Dipshit Corner.
Okay. Question number 1. How do I acquire all the different, overdrive stances or techniques? Because every now and again a character will say, Waka just learned Stoic, or Oron learned Warrior.
That happens from doing whatever that overdrive type triggers off of, just by being in combat and completing enough of those things, you unlock it. So if you kill enough fiends, you get the killer. If you win enough battles, you get the victory one. If your teammates get injured enough, you get Stoic. So each of them are just triggered off of being around enough times.
Okay. What is the overkill mechanic?
It is when
what determines it?
A combination of exploiting weaknesses for given enemies, like if you use a fire attack on an ice enemy, or dealing far more than lethal damage. So if you deal way more than lethal damage on something, you'll get an overkill. That will give you better drops, and I think a little bit of an experience boost too.
Fire is weak to ice?
Yes. And water
is fire,
water,
thunder, water.
It's thunder, water, fire, ice. Thunder, water, fire, ice.
Oh, man.
It's always that.
No, it's not. Each entry in the franchise changes it up slightly.
In this one, it is always that. Those are always the opposing types.
Then where does holy magic sit?
It doesn't... Nothing's, extra... I don't think there are things that are extra weak to holy. Holy seems to work on everything pretty well. And if there are things that are extra weak to holy, you should just be casting holy anyway, because it's really strong.
What do the colors mean on the elemental spectrum? It's blue is water, fire is red,
white
ice is white,
ice, yellow is thunder.
Oh, no.
One day, I can't wait for our last podcast, and you're like, wait, Sin started using this spell. What is his weakness? What is the weakness? What do the colors mean? What other questions do you have? And it better not be, what is Thunder weak against? On Dipshit Corner.
Hey now, don't be that mean. Wow. I guess I've been playing the game. I feel like I've also asked you that elemental question 5 times at this point.
You've asked the elemental question every podcast, I believe.
Really?
I think so. And several times out of podcast. But what other questions did you have? I'm here to answer them.
So you don't really buy into the item customization or combination system all that much, do you?
I've used it before. There are some combinations that are kind of useful, but not really. You don't need to. Once you learn how to play this game well, you don't need any of it. You can, add death to your attacks, and then you'll just be able to grind easier, or you could add a bunch of resistances, but that's not super great.
Okay, so items. What is the difference between, Stone Ward and Stone Proof?
Stone Ward gives you, I think, a 50% resistance. Stone Proof means you can't be hit with it at all.
Okay. I'm still blown away that I've continued to fuck up the elemental system in 10.
I've learned not to be surprised by you fucking up mechanics that I've explained.
Well, you know what? To my defense, I was playing this game side by side, Mobius Final Fantasy. And in Mobius Final Fantasy, it's wind, earth, fire-water, and it's that fire-water relationship from Mobius that really just continues to mess me up because maybe I should stop playing Mobius Final Fantasy.
Yeah, maybe the answer is to stop playing Mobius Final Fantasy. Have you spent money on that thing yet?
No, I haven't.
Thank goodness. Okay, any other questions?
No, I think we can move on.
All right, and now we're leaving Dipshit Corner. So, we go to Guadosalam.
Guadosalam.
Which is a great name for a location.
It's a name for a location. I wouldn't call it great, but yeah.
I like it. It's different.
You're right. I enjoy how each location is distinct, and with Guadosalam, it plays off the dynamic of the Guados being a distinct culture themselves. So their architecture is much more naturalistic, holistic. It has a very kind of earthen feel to it. And as you explore the world, you feel like you're in a place separate from all of the other previous locations.
Yeah, and the Guado, if you talk to most of them, they talk about how their culture used to be ascendant, and then I think humans just basically took over everything. But now Seymour is around, and he's going to lead the Guado to prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
And so
still not sure what they wanted to get out of that accent for the Guado. It's all over the place, especially Seymour's.
Seymour doesn't really have an accent. He just talks like an asshole.
Yeah, it's a little too over the top for my tastes. But
he's got evil villain accent.
Sure, he enunciates his words, but he isn't consistent about which words he enunciates and how he enunciates them.
It's just evil. I mean, there's only two Guado that speak, right? It's Seymour and Trammell.
Jeskel. You see Jeskel in the little hologram machine.
Oh, yeah, Jeskel talks a little bit. But none of them have that. Like, Trammell's got a way of speaking, but he talks like a butler.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
I think Jeskel and Seymour both speak just kind of highfalutin. Seymour more deliberately evil, and then Trammell sounds like a butler.
Yeah, and again, we talked about it last time, but the game really isn't exactly nuanced in terms of suggesting to you that Seymour might be evil.
No.
You see him for the first time, it's like, oh, you're going to be the secondary antagonist, aren't you?
I mean, he summons a giant monster bound by chains that bleeds blood from its eyes.
It doesn't look very happy.
No. His Aeon, compared to all the other Aeons, is the most evil looking. So then you go to the far plane. You go to the far plane first.
Yeah, you explore your surroundings. You have another opportunity to talk to Old Guy, and Old Guy tells you, hey, there's these things called the Pyreflies and the far plane.
And then you go to the far plane. What'd you think of the far plane?
I think it's weird. It's weird. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it because I feel conflicted. It's very heavy-handed about its message about the fragility of life in Sphera. And it's a real cheap shot showing these people that all of our characters know and love. It's like, I'm going to fight for you. I'm fighting for my brother Chapu. That's what Waka says. And like all these characters have something to motivate them to continue with this pilgrimage. It's very cheap. It's emotionally resonant. I would agree with that, but just having every character fight for someone from their past that has passed away or died as a result of sin, it's a weird freaking thing. I think even you would have to agree with that.
Well, a couple of things about the far plane. First, I think the far plane as a concept, like this place where you go and anyone who's died kind of comes back physically in front of you, I think is a pretty cool concept. Like that heaven or some sort of afterlife. There's a place. The afterlife is a place in Sphera, and it's in Guadosalam. And so I think that's just a really cool bit of world building. And it's this paradise, too, that's flying over like a giant field. It's basically a platform hovering over Elysian fields, which is kind of crazy. And like underwater waterfalls and mountains in the sky. And the other thing, like you said, where you think it's kind of cheap, I think that it plays into the overarching theme of this game, which is kind of this cycle of death. That sin is the center of this never-ending cycle of death, where people are born, they rise up a little bit, he comes and wipes them out. And every single character in the game is basically parentless because of sin, because you can't live very long before sin comes to your town and wrecks it and takes someone you love. And so I think that it's a nice unifying theme. And in a world like this, it makes sense that there's no one who is unimpacted by that.
Sure. You do, if you take the time to explore the far plane, again, you can actually see other characters in the far plane. So you have an understanding that a lot of people want closure in the world of Sphera, and they seek out this closure by going to the far plane or making this pilgrimage to the far plane. And you're right. It does show that these people are used to this cycle of death. It's almost an inevitability every walk of life, every step that you take. But again, I just it's narratively a little weird, and emotionally it feels just like they went for the easiest possible solution to creating this cycle of life. Is you get reincarnated, you can be reincarnated to this apparition.
But that's the thing. I don't know, like, the mechanics of the far plane. I don't know that you're reincarnated, because the pyreflies that kind of make up everything just kind of take on your shape. You're not there.
Okay.
And so people, that's one of the reasons that I think Oren gives or Riku gives. Riku says they're not real. They're not the person you remember. It's just the pyreflies taking on their form. It's just you basically drinking in your sorrow to see someone who you can't see anymore. And so I don't want to go there, because it's just you living with memories instead of living your life.
That also does a good job of highlighting the difference between Riku, who is an Albed, and the rest of the cast who are not, as well as introducing the idea that there's this little mystery to Oron, because he doesn't want to go to the far plane. He's in pain when he gets a little too close to it. So it starts to kind of...
I don't belong there.
Yeah, there starts to be this development of a mystery, and then just, two distinct cultures in terms of the Yevonites versus the Albed. There's another scene that you are skipping. That's when Seymour takes a tour with the psychedelic Disney Epcot Center.
Oh yeah, you fly over Xanarkand for a hot second. That's weird.
You mentioned it on the first podcast. It's really fucking me up how the CG versions of this character look nothing like their in-game counterparts.
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit.
Every character looks infinitely more Japanese in their cutscene.
Just entirely, like, again, that's another example of there's this chasm. The game wants to leap across it, but then it falls to its death instead.
But they emote really well. Like, the ones in the cutscenes, they look really good. They just don't look like...
They look fine. You're right. But they look nothing like their in-game counterparts. And every CG cutscene is kind of a hot mess.
A little bit, because I believe the lip syncing is synced to Japanese. And so everything's just a little off for the English version.
I'm not even suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is how whenever there's a CG cutscene, I feel like they're like, oh, we got this CG technology. It's the most advanced we've ever had. Let's just put in a bunch of random bullshit in the screen and make it full of all this color and brightness. Like, every CG cutscene is just busy.
Yes.
It just bewilders me rather than it pulls me into what it's trying to convey. The worst one is coming up. But every CG cutscene is just full of random bullshit that they put into the screen. and you're just kind of like, what am I looking at? There are times where there will be a CG cutscene that's like, what am I even looking at?
Yeah. So at some point, Seymour proposes to Yuna here, and Jiskel comes back as a ghost, as an unsent ghost, and Yuna sends him.
There's a scene where Yuna gets a hold of the holographic vibrating dildo that plays Jiskel's
It's a
dream
sphere.
diary.
It's a sphere.
But no, there's like this weird. What about the time when we snuck up when I'm trying to think, when Titus sneaks up on Yuna. Hold your chocobos is what Waka said, and she kind of leaves or something. I thought that she was listening to the sphere and learned that Seymour was evil and decided to.
Yeah, that's on the Thunder Plains, and yeah, she's listening to a sphere.
Oh, my head's in the gutter. Anyways, so Seymour's evil.
Yeah, it's very clear immediately.
Very clear immediately that Seymour is evil. This is like the third or fourth time that a Final Fantasy game has featured a character that has had a fall from grace without any form of contextualization or context provided for their actions, or just basic characterization.
Yeah, Seymour is the Sephiroth. He is kind of Cypher.
He's a nothing character.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I dislike basically everything with Seymour or the story arc with, him and the Yevon is it's not immediately connected to the importance of our pilgrimage, or it's not, and none of this is connected to sin immediately or explicitly.
I mean,
so
it
is. It feels very much like a side quest.
It is, insofar as pretty early on that the people, or you find out that the people who run the Church of Yevon are not interested in defeating sin. That their stated objective, the reason why the Church of Yevon exists, is to defeat sin. And from the moment in Jose where I think it's what is his name, Maester Keenock tells you that we're just going to have these people. They just need hope, so we'll let them fight.
It's the whole belief of Yevon is that they want to force people into a Mobius, and it's just this cycle of death, resurrection, and living.
But they stay in power at all times.
They stay in power at all times. I feel like the game doesn't do a very good job of surfacing that as a connecting or uniting force as to what's Yevon's relationship with sin. Why exactly does Seymour need to marry Yuna? And what do the Guados get out of their relationship with the Church of Yevon? There are multiple examples of the game not being able to connect its own dots until much later, or it delays the process of connecting those dots in a clear and cohesive manner. And it leads to a lot of the story feeling compartmentalized or isolated from one another. So what we have in Guado Salam is great for Guado Salam. Then we go to the Thunder Plains, and then there's some stuff that happens there. Again, it's the travelogue format, and the game doesn't evolve from that travelogue format as quickly as I would like. And there's another aspect to Seymour that I really am not the biggest fan of. It's the idea that we're going to kind of, again, it's the idea that Seymour doesn't exactly have enough characterization, and I wanted more out of him as a character because he gets a lot of screen time. He gets a lot of time in the game. He's provided ample opportunities to basically be the focus of the story for hours upon end. And the game uses its time to just basically have Seymour be the cackling, mustache-twirling villain rather than provide a context as to what caused him to be invested in Yevon.
Why are people listening to him?
Why is anyone listening to him? Why are the Guados so invested into this new religion when, the game kind of introduces them as being culturally and religiously distinct from the Yevonites? You get a lot of time with Seymour, and the consequence is we have basically no character moments with the primary cast.
I would say that the main problem with Seymour is that they spend a whole lot of time with him just doing evil shit.
Correct.
Just being evil. And instead of building up, doing even the work that you would do for someone like Sephiroth, who's also just comically evil a whole lot of the time, they don't even give Seymour that. And by the time later on in the game where they try to humanize him or give some explanation to him, it's way too little, way too late. I think he's probably the worst villain that we've seen.
I would agree, because you don't even see him, destroy a city.
He just betrays you.
He betrays you, you off him, he becomes a zombie, and then you keep fighting and beating him. So he's basically a villain without any teeth.
And his goal is to have Yuna use him to defeat Sin so that he can become Sin.
Which he's going to do by marrying her.
Yeah, it's a bad plan.
And he wants to marry her and not any of the other female summoners because
power. It's a really convoluted plan. It's a bad,
dumb, convoluted plan. The game can't even take the time to make him be an awesome threat to the party. You remember Beatrice from Final Fantasy IX and she beats our ass?
Yeah. Seymour never does that.
Never does that. Remember when we saw Sephiroth light an entire city on fire and murder the president of Shinra?
Remember when you were following Sephiroth and there was a giant snake on a pike?
Yeah. You remember when, Cypher led an entire army and that army used robot motorcycles to invade you and basically destroy your shit?
Remember when he cut Odin in half?
Remember when there was the initial cutscene where he causes the giant festering face wound on Squall's face?
Yeah. Remember
Seymour
when
does nothing.
Remember when Kuja gave someone the power to wipe a city off the face of the earth? But Seymour just kind of
does nothing.
He kills a bunch of people, but that's kind of it. But mostly people who support him. He just kills his own people.
You only see him kill people that are important to him. There's no... I'm not saying that,
the game's not over. But
no, the game's not over, but I also feel like it castrates Seymour as a villain or as a threat way too early and continues to expect you to view Seymour as a threat.
I view him mostly as an annoyance.
An annoyance or an inconvenience because his battles aren't fun.
And they're not even that hard. They're just
annoying. Fighting Seymour is kind of annoying because there's always someone else supporting him or something supporting him, something in the background you have to worry about more than Seymour himself.
We'll get to that when we talk about both Seymour fights from this section.
But yeah, Seymour, I feel like he looks
a bad
cool.
villain.
He looks cool.
He does.
I like his hair. I don't know how he got his hair to be all up and like that, but
all Guado seem to have magical hair. So after Guado Salam, Yuna's proposed to. You have to walk across the Thunder Plains. How many lightning strikes did you dodge before you gave up?
15.
Good call.
But
don't do that.
But I was totally going to do it. Totally going to do it. Then I saved my game and then didn't realize I have to do that shit without saving.
One attempt.
You have to do it in one attempt. So I reset, and fuck that. That's a bunch of bullshit. Why would you put it in your game? It's already no fun in the first place, and the window of opportunity... That's the worst part. The Thunder Plains are zero fun. There's one aspect of the Thunder Plains I want to discuss. It's when they make Riku into this cowering, sniveling child.
Yeah, she's scared of lightning.
Riku deserves better in this game. She's our vessel to learn more about the El Bed and their distinct culture, but she's stuck playing sidekick the entire game.
Just wait till there's a game where she's one of the 3 main characters.
Oh, God, don't even get me started. But no, yeah, Riku deserves better.
I think she gets better. I think she's
She gets
given her
one
moments.
Scene. She gets one scene. She gets one scene. That's it. And her relationship with Yuna isn't even built. It's like, oh, we're secretly related. Yay, hey. And it's only mentioned and developed when it's convenient to the plot. It's not something where it naturally progresses.
Their cousinhood is not really talked about that much.
Just it. Yeah.
So the Thunder Plains suck. You get over them quickly.
I also explored accidentally. This is something that I forget if I talked to you. I went back accidentally to the Far Plane and saw Lulu. Yeah, it was Lulu. And she was talking about, I can't see something in the Far Plane. I don't know if I was supposed to see that or not.
Yes, that is actually foreshadowing for a character who you can meet.
Oh,
There's
cool.
someone who she expects to see on the Far Plane who she does not.
Can we mention also real quick how Waka goes to the Far Plane, sees Chapu, you see Chapu, and it's like, this guy looks nothing like fucking Titus. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, he doesn't look that much like him.
No, he doesn't look anything like him.
But I think they used the Far Plane well. That's all I'll say on that.
Okay.
Especially with the Lulu thing. You can meet the character. You can find out what the deal that was with that pretty soon.
Cool. Interesting.
So, you cross the Thunder Plane. It kind of sucks. You already mentioned Yuna kind of listens to his fear, and Titus barges in, holds your chocobos.
I love that scene. I love that scene. That scene. There's a real sense. There's a real sense of brotherhood between Waka and Titus. And say what you will about when they decide, well, someone's got to be a racist. Why not Waka? But Waka's sense of brotherhood with Titus is a great interpersonal relationship that I really enjoy. They complete each other's sentences in a way where it's like, I think just like you.
They're way into sports.
There are times where they're like high-fiving each other in the weirdest places. Like they high-five each other when they see each other in Via Parifico. It's like, you guys have been set to execute. Why are you high-fiving each other? This is not a time to celebrate.
Go Aurochs. That's why. They're in their element in the water.
Oh yeah, there are interpersonal relationships. I've mentioned it before, but I'll continue to say it. The interpersonal relationships add a sense of heart, honesty, and just emotional honesty, I should say. I quite enjoy. And a level of sincerity with the story that I feel like Final Fantasy games prior to this have either lacked or not been totally steeped in. I think 9 did a pretty good job in terms of its emotional honesty, but it was a little hairy on the corners, frayed on the corners, as I sometimes say.
Yeah. So you get through the Thunder Plains, then you're in Macalania. You have to go through the forest. The forest sucks. It's full of really dangerous enemies.
The enemies in that forest, like fighting the Chimera.
It sucks.
And you're not really that leveled up for some of these enemies.
No, they are tough. All of the regular enemies. There's some of them, like, paralyze. They petrify you with a single attack. The Chimeras are just super strong. It's a messed up section. It's a real difficulty jump from the Thunder Plains.
And I decided to do one of the butterfly sequences. I got all the butterflies.
That's fine. I don't remember that being a good
No, it's not.
thing.
No. I think I have to do it like 5 or 8 times, and it's not even...
Just don't.
But no, yeah. It's... This highlights how there are like moments where Final Fantasy X gets mechanically frustrating, and then immediately I think it knows that what it has subjected to you is frustrating. So the very next scene in the game will be amazing.
Yeah, and
that's
when
kind of
Auron,
the case of Macalania Forest.
Auron drops the hammer on some. He's like, "Wait a second, I got something to show you. Let me just chop through these trees like a badass." And then
you fight the hardest boss in the game.
That's not true. Sphere Morph is not that hard, but you have to.
Is really hard.
You didn't use magic on him, did you?
I used magic on him. I just didn't know which magic to use.
That's a problem.
I think that Sphere Morph should have changed shapes to coincide with whatever element Sphere Morph was using.
What if you just used the opposite of whatever it was using on you?
But then I have to be attacked and then get damaged. And then remember, I thought for the longest time, water beats fire, ice beats lightning. And then I realized, I'm looking at this screenshot. There's like these weird pebble system where it says times 1.5 minus 1/2. Oh, that's why you're supposed to use scan. Sensor, I should say. Oh. That seems pretty useful. Gino, I don't think I'm very good at Final Fantasy games.
You're not, but you can slop through. We'll get you through this.
So yeah, Sphere Morph is the hardest boss in the game. He's really difficult. He's one of the hardest bosses in the game.
He's not. You just need to know what the elemental system is. But once you kill him, you get some level 2 spheres, which is important.
I didn't get any because I didn't beat him in time or something.
Well, you can get some spheres very shortly thereafter, and then you get the first Ject sphere.
Yes.
Which is, I think, cool, right? Now they're starting to give Ject depth.
I probably would have to still echo some of the things that I mentioned in our previous podcast about how the oscillation between Ject in Sphera and Titus's flashbacks of Ject is disquieting and uncomfortable. I saw this sphere and then one sphere right before we got to the Calm Lands. I think someone told me to go back to Macalania Forest and pick up one more Ject sphere. I think it's something that I personally, I have a hard time accepting what the game is trying to do with Ject, and I guess I'll just say that.
And for a while, I did too. The reason that Ject's turn works for me is because the version of Ject that you see in the flashbacks, the things that are burned into Titus's brain as a child, are inherently, like, they are terrible, but they are also inherently flawed perspectives on who this man was to begin with. Because he just remembers the abuse. He doesn't know.
I think he has a right.
I think he has a right to. Totally.
I think he has a right to.
Totally. He was a child. His dad was an asshole, like abusive, a drunk, like totally understand it 100%. But he never got the benefit of growing up and seeing his dad as an adult to an adult. He always saw him as this giant bully. Very literally. Like, it is the least subtle scene in the game where his dad is saying, "You'll never find you with a woman." Bah, ha, 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 ha. Like, he's basically a cartoon villain in Titus's mind. And the scenes in the Ject spheres in Sphera show you that this man, not only was he was an asshole when he left Sphera, but over time, he can grow. Even an asshole can change and get better. And I think that that's what they're going for with him. And I think that you end up with a situation where Titus is completely right to hold all of his opinions about his dad and not change them. But the rest of Spira is still justified in thinking he's a hero. Because he can be both at the same time.
That is correct. I would agree with what you are suggesting. There is one caveat to that. I think hiding this characterization, this entire story dynamic behind a bunch of collectibles that are hidden beneath...
It's a terrible choice.
It's a terrible choice. It's the dumbest fucking shit.
It's the worst.
Through all the song and dance of picking up this random bullshit on the ground so is that you can learn about probably one of the most important characters that is not in your party is bad. That's bad design. Why can't that be a flashback that I'm required to watch? It's so stupid.
Yeah. They only give you a couple of spheres in the normal course of play, and it's a shame. So
I really like seeing Auron in those Jek spheres. That version of young Auron, it's so cool to see because the game actually does a really good job of showing character evolution over time, and Auron is one of the clearest examples. He's like this very, clear-headed, clear-minded, no-nonsense badass, and he becomes this kind of sensei figure for everyone else. I really like that. Don't hide that beneath collectibles.
And he's another example, like the Auron you see in the spheres, he is so self-righteous and naive about a whole lot of things, and it is cool to see that the man who everyone sees as this hero, this figure who's supposed to be larger than life, such that like a dude asks to just shake his hand because he's such a fan, at one time was this kind of naive, ordinary person.
It's almost as if the spheres suggest that Auron kind of sees a bit of himself in Titus, hence why he wants to help him through this journey.
And sees a lot of his father in Titus. A lot of Jecht in Titus.
Yeah. It's almost like if you don't collect these spheres, an entire character doesn't have any characterization whatsoever.
Yeah, it's almost like Auron doesn't get his full due, and Jecht doesn't get his full due, and Titus and all of these scenes that Auron goes, hey, you really remind me of your dad there, just don't get the payoff.
Here's the reason why I'm starting to turn around. In the main story, all you get is Auron during the Macalania forest scene saying, hey, I just wanted to say your dad loves you. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck? What the fucking fuck? Like, I got very emotionally angry at Auron, and then guess what? I started exploring these spheres, and it's like, oh, okay.
All of those spheres were recorded because he thought he was going home to his son, but he never was. And all of these things that Auron's saying are echoes of things that Jecht recorded himself saying in those locations.
My reaction last podcast is a reflection of, I think,
not having seen those.
And you know what? It's a disservice because I could continue to believe that had I not taken the time to see those other spheres.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest storytelling flaws in this game is that they hide possibly the best character work they do in the game, I think, is with Jecht, because he's, I think, the most complex character, and they do it in collectibles, and it's just a bad choice. Not since the flashbacks from Lost Odyssey have I seen so much good characterization hidden behind such a bad system.
Yeah. Those fucking bucks.
So, you get to Macalania, you get through the forest, you hang out with Rin for a hot second, and then...
I think Rin might actually have the ability to teleport. He gets around.
Well, he uses Machina.
Yeah, I guess you're right, but...
Turns out if you embrace machines maybe you can get around slightly faster.
Mm-hmm.
And Yuna gets picked up by the Guado, and then as she's getting
dumb. Every time, she gets kidnapped by the Al-Bhed.
The Guado are going to escort her to Macalania Temple, and then she gets caught by the Al-Bhed on the way there.
Scene is I laughed so hard when I saw the Al-Bhed on their like snowmobiles circling around her. It's like, what? It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's like, because you later fight the Guado, and they're no joke. So what? You fight a robot, and the robot's okay, I guess. I wish the game revealed or did a better job about contextualizing the Al-Bhed and their actions a little bit better. I mean, eventually it does, but it delays that so thoroughly that really, eventually, yeah, I know what you're going to say. The Al-Bhed do get their due, but they get it in spurts. It's that start-stop storytelling that just kind of frustrates me with Final Fantasy X. It'll introduce a character arc or introduce a plot element, delay developing it, introduce a new plot element, not complete that plot element, go back to plot element A, develop that a little bit, introduce plot element C, delay.
It juggles. It
go
just
back
keeps
to B.
too many balls in the air.
Yeah, and that's probably my most... It frustrates me so thoroughly to watch us explore each of these different locations and not have any story beats, character moments get completed within those locations. Say what you will about Final Fantasy VII and kind of how contrived it is that each location developed one of the characters, and then once that character had its moment in location X, we were done learning about them. But at least it completed what it wanted out of each of its characters with a kind of quick pace.
Yeah, this game slowly builds all of them all the time. And you just kind of have to keep everything in your head that these characters are growing, which I think is a much more naturalistic way of telling the story. It's a
naturalistic way, but with the format of a JRPG, that means you're going to be waiting a solid hour to 2 hours before you see part 2 to that story.
Yes, and that's why almost every time I talk about these games with y'all on the podcast, it always comes down to me being like, no, it's all going to work out because I have it all in my head. I already know where everything's going. As it's slowly getting built for everyone else, it's a very different experience.
Yeah, that's basically what defined our Final Fantasy IX podcast is, Gino, this character sucks. It's like, no, you're lying. Just give him 10 more hours.
No, not you're lying. I'm like, no, they're gonna get better. They're gonna grow.
Steiner's so fucking boring. Why do I have to fucking continue to like him and use him in my cast?
Okay, Steiner's kind of one of my favorite characters now. He's pretty great.
So anyways, yeah, I guess you're right, but it's just...
You defeat some kidnappers, there's an anti-magic field, and you deal with it, and then you have to go to Macalania Temple.
No, never mind. I'm thinking of a later sequence. Macalania Temple. Fuck that!
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be so easy at first.
It's only 2 levels.
Seymour gets you through, and Yuna gets her summon, but then...
You know what I did in the Macalania Temple? That I hit the reset switch, and I had to start all over again, and I was like 1 or 2 steps away from collecting the destruction sphere, and then I accidentally stepped on the reset button, and then I had to do the entire fucking thing all over again.
That's happened to me before, and it sucks. It's such a terrible location for that reset button.
So do you think...
You first fight Seymour.
Yeah, you first fight Seymour.
Which is...
Well, you fight Seymour technically twice.
Yeah, you fight him with his dudes, and then he summons Anima, and then you fight him after you defeat Anima. And all of those different forms are potentially devastating if you're not prepared.
Or you're like me, you get so frustrated with the game's bullshit, you just have Riku use Mix and then you're done.
Yep. Did you see Anima's Limit Break or Overdrive?
No.
Or did Anima not cast it on you? Okay. It's a really cool animation. It's probably for the best that you didn't see it because it will probably kill you.
Yeah, I think I used Shiva and then just cast Diamond Dust over and over. Or, yeah, I used Diamond Dust.
That'll work. That deals a lot of damage. Shiva's really good.
Shiva's really good. I like how she kicks. It's got a little whiplash effect on it. It's pretty cool. Yep. One quick thing. Those Guado Guardians are no joke.
You have to
Took me
steal
forever to figure out you needed to steal their high potion so as that they didn't use auto potion.
Yep, got him, rob him. And then you escape from Seymour. Well, you kill Seymour, and the Guado don't like that one bit.
I like how you can use trigger commands to talk to certain bosses, and then they raise like Titus's strength or Yuna's magic.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's a cool thing. It's super contrived, but it's kind of interesting. Yeah, you kill Seymour, and the Guado are kind of pissed off at you, and you basically have to book it. And this is probably one of the better action sequences in the game. It's very demure and kind of played back. It's not something that has like all this spectacular explosions, but there's a real sense of stakes, and the music is perfect.
You get chased, and then you fight this Wendigo that's this giant snow monster that's got Guado helpers.
Yeah, that abominable snowman is no joke.
Yeah, and then he breaks this frozen lake, and you fall to the bottom of the frozen lake.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow Sin shows up. Somehow. It's unclear to me.
That's one of the weirder moments. I really like how we're in the bottom of the lake, and it's very fuzzy.
Yeah.
The presentation in that area, you're among the fireflies. They're floating around you. And there's a lot of singing and there's music, and it's like, what? Titus is having to ask, what is this music? What does this song mean? It's almost like this song is important to the story, and it keeps continuing to be a part of the story for a reason.
It's because they are under the lake, and the hymn of the faith is being sung.
It's almost
and there's another destroyed city in the bottom of this lake.
Yep.
This world has so many destroyed cities.
Yeah, but I feel like that's to its benefit to show we are definitely in the post-apocalypse. And the world of Sphera has seen better days.
It's Spira. It always bothers
Gino, you have been on podcasts. How many Final Fantasies have we done?
A lot.
How many
You're
times?
You're going to mispronounce things. I'm just going to say it this one time.
Games. How many times do I mispronounce names of characters?
Every
time. Spira.
There you go.
Spira.
So Sin shows up, I guess, through some sort of underground waterway that gets him from the ocean to the bottom of this lake somehow, and he transports you to Bicanel Island, which is...
No, real quick. The scene where Titus is talking to Sinject, Whale Monster, almost got me. Like, that hit me hard. It's like, yeah, Dad, I know. It's like he's finally come to terms with Sin being his father, but not only that, but he's developing a sense of remorse. Like, he understands the pain that his father is in. He's like, don't worry, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna kill you. Don't worry, I'm coming.
And the hymn of the faith. That Sin was there and it was listening to the song.
Listening to the song, but also Titus goes from 0 to 60 in 6 seconds, because in Macalania Forest, Titus is still pissed off at his father, and now he feels like, I have to honor you by killing you, and I understand what you've gone through. It's like, wait, what? But it's so superficial, but god damn it, I love that scene. God dang it, why does the game have to be so stunningly superficial, but so earnest and sincere that I love it anyways?
Welcome to Final Fantasy. Welcome to anime.
I know. And then I know I've told you this, but I think this game might crack my top 10 favorite games of all time. It might take number 10, which is Mario Party 4.
Please, God. Let it knock out Mario Party 4. Though, as long as we both understand that it won't crack number 1 of the Final Fantasies of all time, as long as we know that, that's fine. So, we go to Bicanel Island.
And it's the worst gameplay sequence in the entire game thus far.
It is the biggest, longest dungeon. It is a desert island where Riku and the rest of the Albed live. And you just kind of end up in a little lagoon.
Okay, so it's the trifecta of suck in terms of Final Fantasy sequences. This is long, it's boring, and it is no fucking fun to play.
And your party's split up. Your party's split up for a while. You don't really know where you're going for large portions of it. There's a high encounter rate.
There's a high encounter rate. The encounters that you have here are no joke. The giant slug monster is not fucking fun to beat.
No, it just takes forever. It's not hard to beat. It just takes
forever. And one of its attacks is the Vor attack, where it eats your party member, which is always fun.
And then it'll vomit you up.
Vomits you out. And it doesn't even do a lot of damage, but the battles against the zoo are really goddamn annoying. And then there's those goddamn cactuars. And if they do 10,000 needles, one of your party members is dead. You always know that you have a real fun sequence when the game has to develop a new mechanic to address the fact that you don't have your white mage anymore. Like having all these Albed potions for Riku to use. That's always a good sign. That's always a sign that this sequence isn't mechanically broken.
I do like that it allows you to make do without Yuna being in your party. I do like that they give you an alternative for healing.
Because Yuna, by around this point, other than the few times when you have to use her summons, Yuna, I've started to scale back my use of Yuna. I'm still doing that advice that you gave me where just try to, for as many battles as possible, swap in each character at least once and give them out.
Then you get the experience.
Then you get the experience and you can put them on the sphere grid. Oh, here's another question. Is navigating the sphere grid with a controller easier than using the arrow keys?
Like a little bit, but it always sucks. There are always some spheres that are at a weird angle, and the controller just never wants to gravitate.
It's like going diagonally is just such a piece of shit.
It's always miserable.
It's always miserable to go diagonally.
Yes.
I remember one time it's like, hey, what do you think I should do with Riku? It's like, go get Copycat. It's like, great. Where the fuck is Copycat? Oh, man.
Go find it. So once you go ahead and make your way through this horrible desert,
you get some cool stuff. You get
a lot of cool stuff. And then you wind up at home, the Albed home, named Home. And it is under attack. The Guado are pissed. They blame you for everything, and all the Albed are dead, pretty much. They are dying. There's like an alert that is going on constantly.
Oh, that's the worst part of this level is how it plays the same Albed chant or alert over and over again. I got so fucking annoyed. I actually took my fucking headphones off and played the game mute because I was so sick and tired of that goddamn Albed alert playing over and over again.
I think it says something like, get out of here or, escape.
I'm between two worlds about Home because what is attempted here is magnificent, but it's so freaking annoying that you have to get these Albed primers just to know what they're saying. And getting those Albed primers is such a pain in the ass.
But when you do, you realize that you're stumbling into like this giant one of the last mechanized cities in the world, and it's under attack, and you're basically watching a genocide.
Yeah.
And for a while, you're just kind of moment to moment fighting your way through, trying to find Yuna. And you find this chamber called the Sanctuary, where all of the summoners you've run into during your pilgrimage are being held. They've all been kidnapped.
There's a reason why they're kidnapping these summoners.
Do you want to tell the listeners at home, because you've just found out?
Yes, it turns out that when you go to Xanarkin and perform the final summon to kill Sin, it kills the summoner that performs the final summon. So every time that... Well, the game wants it to make it seem as if every time that Titus has said, yeah, let's go to Xanarkin, I'm excited, he's like painfully reminding Yuna of the inevitability of her death.
Yeah, and reminding everyone that.
But I feel like the game didn't do the best job of showing that. Like, the only time where you see grimaces or kind of pain or agony or anguish on Waka's face, Lulu's face, or anyone in the party is here. When they finally decided to reveal to you, oh, no, wait, she's going to die.
Well, a lot of the time there's just silence. It is Titus saying something, and there's silence. And you think that the silence is because he's ignorant, because they're just, like, you know, humoring him or something. When, in fact, some of the scenes earlier on when he's saying, let's get to Xanarkand, you kind of, when you replay the game, if you ever replay the game, you realize that some of those moments are so somber because they can't bear to tell him the truth.
It's still a story pivot that kind of comes out of nowhere. It's a gut punch. It is a gut punch. I think even you would recognize it's a gut punch.
Oh, totally. I mean, he's just like crying and saying, like, I can't believe you guys never told me all these things I was telling her were
I think
lies.
That's one of the more I think that is one of the most successful scenes with Titus's characterization. He's not necessarily anguishing over Yuna's death. He's anguishing over the fact that he's subjected Yuna to these painful memories and neuroses, possibly, all this time without knowing it.
Yeah.
And
it's rough. It's a rough scene.
It's a rough scene. I think it does a good job later in terms of Yuna's characterization. I mean, she's a person who's willing to sacrifice her life.
And all of the summoners, you talk to them and they're like, and they start summoning things to defend the Albed home and to send the Albed who defended them. And they're just like, look, if I have to die, I have to die. I want to bring peace to Spira, to all these people I care about. And so I chose this.
Yeah.
And it gives an additional weight to the pilgrimage that already had a lot of weight.
So,
and even Donna and Isaru kind of...
Yeah, even Donna and Isaru. Here's the problem I have with Donna and Isaru. Are Donna and Isaru seeing all this evidence that Yevon is possibly corrupt or twisted? And they're still like, nope, still going to sacrifice myself, da-da-da-da-da. It's like every bit of our journey, we've seen a little bit of evidence that there's something up with Yevon, but we're the party that is able to connect the dots. We're the party that's able to piece together the puzzle, but no one else is.
Well, no one else has seen Seymour. No one has that bit of evidence, and no one else was at Jose. So there are moments that you can see that you're the only people who have the full story, but it still doesn't make a ton of sense that Isaru would, say, for example, try to kill Yuna.
Okay.
Or Donna would... Well, Donna actually has some moments of doubt coming up. But these characters... Like, I don't think Isaru's characterization, what they do with him and Bavel, I don't think makes a ton of sense, considering what you did to save him.
Yeah.
So, you fight in home... You get rescued by Sid, the Sid of this game. Again, he's got an airship.
An airship.
And Sid is Riku's dad.
And Yuna's uncle.
And when you escape, he decides that he must blow up home behind them. Because it's full of fiends.
Mm-hmm.
And so they start singing. All the Albed start singing. and then they blow up their own home, which is pretty rough.
Yeah, it's incredibly rough because you're right to say that, and even the game makes the point of showcasing that all the Albed in this ship, that's it. This beautiful culture, this distinct culture is dead. This is all that remains. And they're in tatters. They have no home. They have to commandeer this airship in order to live or make do or make ends meet. It's really, it's a guttural reaction that I got out of it. It's just your heart sinks with the game. The game attempts all of these emotions and successfully hits its marks again and again and again.
Yeah, and I think that what really did it for me is how bad of a singer Sid is, and how bad of a singer most of the people on that ship are. And I guess just having some people who really wanted to sing a song and sing it just in a almost spiritual way, where they just need to get this out.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a really good move, a really smart move, compared with all of the incredibly precise, gifted singers that are singing the songs when you go to all the temples.
The bullshit J-pop song?
No, I mean like the different almost soloists, like when you're near the faith.
Yeah.
There's always a excellent singer who's just like nailing it.
I was being facetious.
Okay. Because the excellent J-pop song hasn't come yet.
No, you mean the bullshit J-pop song.
There are many J-pop songs on the way in your near future.
Ah!
So you escape home, then you find out that Yuna's going to get married.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about this because what you see, the visual presentation of the next couple of sequences is great. I wish that the justification for all these sequences wasn't complete garbage.
I do really enjoy Sid. Like Titus says, we're gonna save Yuna. We're gonna stop her from killing herself.
You realize there's this giant flying dragon worm thing. It's like, nah, son, we gonna do this. We're gonna save it. It's like, you got balls. Let's do it. Yes.
But when Titus is like, I'm gonna save her, she doesn't have to die, and Sid like grabs him by the throat.
Body
like, I care about her. Yeah, Body's like throws him over his shoulder and is just like, you better remember that, boy, because if you don't, I'm coming for you.
Uncle Sid gonna get my knife on your face.
Yeah.
I actually appreciated how you see that scene and the game provides you the opportunity to explore the airship, like, before you move the story. And I quite enjoyed the interactions I had with the Albed, even though I wasn't able to completely piece together what they were saying.
Yeah, did you find Donna on the ship?
I did find Donna on the ship, and I said, you can eat a bag of dicks and continue your fucking pilgrimage and die for all I care.
Well, you can tell her to give up her pilgrimage, and she
I didn't.
Does.
She can die. Die, Donna, die. She's not going to die, is she?
Well, I don't think she will, but I think she definitely wouldn't have if you told her to give up.
She can eat a bag of dicks.
Yeah, you fight that giant dragon, and it's awesome.
That battle sucks. Visually, it's great. Visually, it's great, but what is it? Evray?
When it goes under the clouds and then pops up right next to you, it's awesome.
Sure. Let's talk about how the battle with Evray is the point at which Final Fantasy X starts to get hard. It starts to get mechanically the boss battles, except for maybe the undead version of Evray, where you just pop a phoenix down. But this boss battle, there's a lot going on. And when I first did it, all right, I'll come clean. I beat Evray on my first try, but it was a real long fight because I didn't know what the benefits are with being close up or further away. I didn't know how to deal with some of the problem. Like, having a boss that casts Petrify is bullshit. It's no bueno. No bueno. and it's just this flying worm thing that it's really one of the hardest battles that you have up to that point.
Yeah, but when you're away from him, you shoot missiles at
You
it.
can only do that 3 times, Gino.
But it's awesome. It does a lot of damage. And then you actually learned Holy, right, by this point?
Yeah, I learned Holy, and basically that breaks the game.
Yeah, so what you can do there, when I was up to this point, I had Holy and Copycat on all 3 characters. And so I just had one character cast Holy, and then the other characters copycat it, and then killed him.
Awesome. I just did. I did Holy and then Mix.
Those are the broken things you can do. Holy, I think. So the way copycat works is for a certain fixed amount of MP, your characters will just do whatever the last character did, and so you can get them to cast spells that they don't have.
Like Quadra damage? Or Mimic?
Yes. It's really strong.
It's really, really strong.
So then you grind
I
on rails.
I don't understand how they didn't fall off the fucking tight ropes that they were like Tony Hawk Pro Skate 3 grinding on these cables that
they were grinding these rails.
Like it would have been it would have made sense if they were wearing like magnetized shoes, but I'm looking at the screenshot that I took. Those are just Titus's regular ass shoes.
Yeah. He's just good at grinding. He's Sonic from Sonic Adventure. It's like da na 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 da na 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 na.
Again,
just grinding on those rails. It's like Ratchet and Clank sequence.
Again, it's really a great visual. I wish it were in service of a set piece that was worth a bucket of hot spit.
Oren's got a sword on one hand. He's got his arm tucked into his little, like, sling, and he's grinding down this rail. Coming for you.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
And then you fight a bunch of monks.
Yeah, that's what I was suggesting when I said I wish this were in service for a set piece that was worth more than a bucket of warm spit.
You kill all those monks, and then you run up to Yuna, and you try to stop the marriage, and then they turn guns on you, and these are the only guns that count?
These are the only guns that count. I enjoy how Oren even is like, this is Mahina. You realize that, asshole. Is like, we get to use whatever we say. Bah.
Yep.
Do we get to... Oren mentions it later, but do we get to see... Will I see young Kinnock so is that I understand why these two used to be friends? Or is that just a one-off reference that Oren makes?
What about Kinnock?
Do I see Kinnock in the spheres, Jek spheres, or is just...
No.
Oh, fuck.
No, he's just someone that Oren knows from his time as a warrior monk. You don't get too much more into their relationship.
There's that weird robot that punts you into the distance. Right?
Yeah, that guy sucks.
Sucks. Super sucks.
They have a ton of Machina in Bavel, it turns out. And the secret to Bavel keeping that a secret from everyone is that no one can move anywhere with any sort of regularity because they're in constant fear of death. So no one ever goes to the Holy City to see it.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
And so you end up with Seymour and Yuna getting married. And then Yuna jumps off of the frickin' building and summons an Aeon as she's falling.
It's like,
which is awesome.
Yeah, it's a great visual. It's like, she should have done... Honey, you should have done that like 10 minutes ago.
Honey, you should have done that before you kissed him.
Yeah, you should have done that the first thing. What the fuck?
That was your first move. You didn't need to marry him first. That was always in your deck of cards.
And then you rescue Yuna. It's pretty... visually, this is one of the better character-focused CG cutscenes. Because, you see her fall to the... It's like, oh, yay, she used Valfor. It's a pretty great visual. Then we play the worst fucking temple puzzle, I think, in the entire fucking game.
Yeah, it's really annoying. It's a timing-based
Bevel.
level.
Oh, God.
It's a lot of timing-based stuff, and it sucks.
It's visually
It's not hard.
monotonous. I actually would say it is hard, and it's because of its design. It's visually monotonous, so I'll be like, what part of the map am I on? Where do I need to go next? I don't know. I'm just going to look this shit up. Oh, hey, I'm all the way over here in this obscure corner. I need to go to point 5. Oh, that's not that big of a deal. Oh, wait, the timing's fucked, so I can't even get there. Now I have to try again. Great. Awesome.
Yep, it sucks. Let's not discuss it in depth. It sucks. It's bad. Bavel Temple sucks.
I also will remind you, Gino, that I am naming my Aeons again. Which I shouldn't do because I've accidentally already cast the wrong Aeon because I've named them things.
What are they named?
I started off Ifrit is Ifrit. Valfor is Valfor. Then I have Horseman, Blue Lady, all caps, and Dragoon for Bahamut.
Great. So Dragoon is really important for the Via Purifico. So you get a sham trial. Basically,
I quite enjoyed the sham trial.
Seymour and Micah are both dead.
Yes.
And the Ronso Maester did not know that, and is not so down with that.
I don't know how he didn't know that, but sure, okay.
Oh, actually, he knew that Micah was dead, and he was cool with Seymour being dead. The thing he was not cool with was Seymour killing his father.
Yes.
He was not cool with that. Weirdly enough. Everyone else is cool with it, though. No one trusts each other.
It's another example of the games trying to pull the rug underneath you, but I feel it's not as effective as the earlier attempts that the game has made in terms of its story pivots. It's like I already knew that Yevon was evil. Oh, they're all zombies? Sure, whatever. Okay, I guess they're zombies.
They basically don't trust anyone to run the country correctly, so they just never die. They never leave.
Yeah, and so
better intelligent rule by the dead than foolish rule by the living.
Correct. But yeah, again, it would have been a lot more surprising if we understood who Seymour was and why we should care about Seymour, or what convinced him to go down this dark path, or we had a better understanding about what Yevon's relationship with sin was. Because the primary objective is to get rid of sin. And the connection between these two parts, I don't feel is explicit enough to the story. I get that there's this weird, like, Yevon has this relationship with sin. They think that this is part of the never-ending cycle of life, death, and, maybe resurrection. But what exactly does Yevon get out of sin? Or what does sin get out of Yevon?
Sin is just a force. Sin is like it's Godzilla.
Sure.
It is something that is running around just rampaging with no real controls. Yevon gets out of sin a society that is constantly fractured, constantly in a state of terror, that is being manipulated by this basically combination of your favorite sports team, like it's the NFL, and the Catholic Church at the same time.
That's where I think that connect all these dots. Final Fantasy X, bring it all together. Bring it all together. I'm not asking for a lot.
This is where they say it better a wise rule by the dead than foolish rule by the living. I think that's Micah says something to that effect, and it just sets them up as this kind of arch-conservative group that it's better to have old ideas that we know won't get everyone all the way killed and keep everyone kind of in this constant limbo state where they're neither saved nor completely destroyed than to try anything different that can result in any higher amount of risk.
Sure.
Or higher success. So basically the Maesters of Yevon are cool with the status quo. They just want to keep the status quo. And their current situation allows that. And they're in power. Weirdly enough, they want to keep the status quo when where they're on top at all times.
That's a good point. Again, I feel like...
And that's why Yuna's a threat. That's why Yuna and her guardians are a threat. They know what's going on. They also have ideas about defeating Sin without going through all of their rigmarole. And the worst thing for Yevon would be if there was no Sin, because all of their edicts and mandates only make sense in the context of, you need to do this because otherwise we're all going to die. And this is our only hope.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if you... Are you watching The Handmaid's Tale at all?
I read the book.
Well, in the current show adaptation, there's a pretty good... There's a couple of scenes where it's just like, the reason why this horrible authoritarian state is allowed to exist is because situations are so dire that it can be foisted on people, and they accept it.
That's also in the book.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's also in the book, but I would point out specific scenes if you had seen the show.
They're probably in the book.
They're probably... I keep asking my wife, and she's like, this wasn't in the book. They basically went off script after like a couple episodes.
Kind of like Game of Thrones?
Kind of like that.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think that this... All you need is that these people want to be in power, and they don't really care how they get their power.
Low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging fruit.
Yep.
Not as ambitious as I wanted the game to go.
I mean, it'll get more ambitious. Don't you worry.
Ambition.
Don't you worry. That this is a Final Fantasy game. They will go way too far.
Oh, do you mean to suggest there's going to be like a late-game plot twist that's total bullshit?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
You just wait. You just wait. You don't even know.
Oh, I love it when Gino says, "You don't even know."
You don't even know
about a late-game bullshit plot twist.
You don't even understand. Ah! Oh, you don't know.
You know what I'll do to that?
Oh no, Vienna sausage. Why are they back? God.
I'm going to eat to that.
So, you get sentenced to the Via Purifico, this maze that's supposed to kill you.
Dumbest execution process I've seen in a video game. Let's just throw people into this canal system full of monsters and hope they die, but also provide a convenient exit in case they don't die.
Yep, and we're going to station some people by the exit to kill them in case they don't die. So this is kind of a tutorial section for Yuna using Bahamut, or Dragoon, as you named him.
Wait, there's an important...
This is kind of the tutorial section for that summon, because he's got Impulse, which is this ability that hits all enemies, and it one-shots every single enemy in this area.
So is there anything mechanically distinct about Bahamut, or is it just this one attack is really, really powerful?
He is the strongest summon of the ones you have right now, and he's the only... Every one of their special abilities, so they've got attack and then like a unique special ability. Each one of their special abilities does something slightly different. Like Valfor's will delay your opponent. I think Ifrit's just does a lot of damage. I think Ixion's might ignore defense. And then I think that Shiva's does some sort of status effect. Bahamut's thing is that it hits all enemies. It doesn't just hit one. So he can just wipe all of these people, all these fiends out in one hit. And then you reassemble your party.
Which is actually not all that great. You don't know where you're going. It's a maze. I get the whole point is that it's a maze, but then that means you're doing all this aimless wandering with Yuna, and getting into a random encounter with just Yuna is not fun.
No, it's not great. But at least she's got Bahamut at this point, so they're not dangerous encounters. And then you fight Isaru, who's been tasked with...
And the problem I have with this combat sequence is it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense that Isaru has totally bought into Yevon, views Yuna as a traitor. It's not as if he sees the evidence that there's benefit to Machina, and he fucking was there. He saw the goddamn terrorist attack, the act of genocide, and he's still like, no, I'm still down with Yevon. I'm still good with Yevon.
I like that you defeat him, and then Orin says your pilgrimage is over. It's just like, you're done. go home. In the water sports section, you've got Waka, Titus, and Riku underwater
Again,
fighting the
high-fiving
ghost.
each other, saying like, "Yeah, we're together as a team." It's like you guys are being set to be executed. And again, apparently Titus and everyone in this game have the ability to hold their breath for like an hour.
Yeah, he's really good at holding his breath. And you kill the ghost of the dragon. You kill the zombified version of that dragon from before. You just use a healing item on him
just
instead.
use 2 Phoenix Stones. Don't fuck around.
Yep. Once you escape Bavel, you then go to the top of Bavel, and Seymour tries to kill you, and Keenock goes with him because he's like, "Yo,
I don't
trust you. Would you trust a man who killed his own father?" He's like, "Haha, touche." And then he kills Keenock and kills all of his guards, and absorbs them to become some sort of even more Final Fantasy-y villain.
Somehow he's able to transform into a monster.
Like an even bigger monster.
Yeah. That was
weird. And then
weird.
you fight him and it sucks.
That battle sucks. So there's 2 parts to Seymour. There's just the Seymour Nautis part, and then there's that mortar body asshole piece of shit, which I don't understand what that was, but whatevs.
It's like a symbiote or some shit.
It's a symbiote. And he hits you with a lot of elemental attacks, and Mortar Body will start dispelling or using Desperado to remove all status effects on your team, which is a real fucker.
And he insta-kills Aeons, which is annoying.
Yeah. So everything that I could have done to make this battle easy or convenient to me, there's like a weird mechanic that makes it more difficult in an arbitrarily inconvenient manner. But I still was able to use Mix and basically kill him that way.
Mix plus Holy. That'll get you. That'll do it.
I did a real dumb me moment where I cast Hestaga, and then, oh man, I always get the 2. So it's Protect, and what's the magic version of Protect?
Shell.
Yeah. So that I thought I cast Protect when I cast Shell, and then I cast Hestaga, and then it reflected onto Seymour.
Oh, you casted Reflect then, not Shell.
Yeah.
Shell wouldn't bounce it.
No, yeah. I did Shell, then I used Titus to cast Haste, or Hestaga, and then it immediately hit Mortar Body and Nautis, which was great.
That's bad.
That was awesome. That's a very
you thing to do.
That's a very me thing to do.
Yeah, so
and
you
he gets
beat
harder
Seymour
as
again.
What a weird fucking character design. Like, they went full Final Fantasy from 0 to 60 in one battle.
Yeah. He'll only get more Final Fantasy as it goes.
Oh, I have heard.
Yeah. So
somehow we were able to run from Macalania to Bevel. Or, I'm sorry, Bevel to Macalania.
Bavel is right next to Macalania.
Okay, but even then,
there's like a fork. There's a fork.
After murdering Seymour, we're somehow able to run out of Bevel without anyone or anything impeding our progress. Yeah.
I mean, you escape. You killed all the people.
You basically destroyed the city.
When you try to go back to Macalania, they keep you out.
That's funny. And then the most anime-ass scene in the entire game plays.
The last we're going to talk of this for this podcast. Titus needs to comfort Yuna.
What a
after this
scene.
moment.
Oh my god, this fucking scene. I really, really enjoyed the non-CG scene where it's basically Titus trying to say, "Look, let's just give up on your pilgrimage. I'll take you to Xanarkand. We'll go back to my era. I'll show you. We can enjoy all this stuff together. We can be together, be happy together." And then eventually she realizes, no, I got to do this. And she starts crying, and she becomes emotionally. And then Titus just eventually, without saying a word, he knows. He knows. He knows that she needs to do this. He's committed to finding a new solution or a different solution. And the non-CG part of this cutscene is great.
And then the CG happens.
Then
and
the
it becomes
CG
the greatest.
happens, and it's a fucking nightmare. It's an unmitigated nightmare. Just the J-pop starts playing, and it's in Japanese, which I'm totally fine with. Whatever. I'm actually proud of Square standing up for themselves and just going with regular Japanese without doing any of this translation nonsense. But it's the same problem that I talked about the last time we were discussing the CG in Final Fantasy X. It's just a bunch of random bullshit in the screen, and you don't even know where you are. You don't know what's happening. Where are they? Are they swimming in the water? Are they flying in the
floating.
sky? What?
They're floating
Why
underwater.
Are they in the abyss? Where are they? What's
They're
happening?
underwater. They're underwater, and there's stars and everything. There's trees.
How are they able to stand in the water in the first place when it's
and then
like
float under it?
They float under it.
I don't know. Logistically, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But there's heart.
It doesn't even make a lot of sense.
No, but man, they're in love.
They're in love.
And they make out.
They make out. I mean, it's the most emotional and impassioned relationship the Final Fantasy game has shown or had. I mean, Squall and Zidane only got them some at the very end of the game. I would probably argue that Zidane's relationship with Garnet is more enjoyable, but I think this is more fully realized, or a more fully realized part of the story. And it's such a trash fire, but it's a glorious trash fire. It's the most.
They love each other so much.
It's an anime-ass anime scene.
Yes. This is a lot more anime than the 9 relationship. I would say 8 is as anime as 10.
And I think I love it, but also hate it all the same.
Yes. Okay, so here's the important question. What is the more ridiculous romance scene? Squall and Renoa on a spaceship with Eyes on Me playing, or Titus and Yuna swimming and making out in the water stars?
I think I still have to go with 8.
Yeah, if J-pop had started to play in the background and Titus had been like, "I'm your knight. I will if you go evil, I'll be your knight."
And then I think there's also like Eyes on Me is in English, and it makes the lyrics dumber as a result.
Yeah. They are so dumb.
This scene is dumb. It's like, did you get the metaphor when she kind of starts sprouting wings and she's free, Gino? She's flying away in the moon. She's in her own little fantasy world. It's like a Final Fantasy.
Yep, that is pretty dumb. But these two games, these are the two that I think made the old GameSpot Valentine's Day romantic video games lists.
Final Fantasy VIII, greatest romance in the history of video games.
Yes. But 10 was up there, too.
Yeah.
I think that was a Matt Rory joint. I'm not sure, though.
Oh, that article was so stupid. I love that article, but I hated it. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So that's where we'll end on Final Fantasy X.
We end on the dumbest shit you could ever imagine.
Yep.
Well, you said you were going to help me break the game.
Yes. So now it's time to teach you how to break the game. So, in the Calm Lands, there is a temple.
Ah, man.
You just have to go there. You need to get a chocobo. There are chocobos on the Calm Lands. You need to get a chocobo. Once you get a chocobo, which means you have to like train it and some bullshit, you kind of have to go to the top left of the Calm Lands, and the Calm Lands is probably the biggest map other than Bicanel. It might be as big as Bicanel, so it's really annoying. You just go to the top left. There'll be a person on a chocobo. You talk to her. She's like, "Oh, you want to train a chocobo?" You say yes. You train one chocobo. Then you have a chocobo. You then run towards like the entrance almost to the Calm Lands, but you just kind of keep going right. and there'll be a feather on the ground, and you can use that to jump to this temple. Once you go to this temple, I forget what the name of the temple is.
Do you want me to look it up? Because it seems like there are multiple temples.
Yes. Yeah, there are two temples here. But you want the actual temple. One of them is...
Ramin?
Yeah.
That's the one I want?
Yeah. You want to go to that temple, and there's going to be a chocobo on one side of the temple and a chocobo on the other side. And this is outside. You don't go in the temple.
Mm-hmm.
You can go in the temple. If you go in, you'll find the summoner who challenges you to battles. She's there, and you can fight her more if you want. But there will be 2 chocobos. You want to you end up racing one of the chocobos with the other one. And the races, you not only have to beat the chocobo to the bottom, you have to open a certain number of treasure chests before getting to the bottom in order to get different items depending on how many treasure chests you open.
Okay.
Now, all you have to do is you have to win once, and that'll get you a key item, and then that's just done. But you have to, I think, open 2 treasure chests. Look this up. Mm-hmm. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I think it's 2 treasure chests you have to open, and then beat the chocobo to the bottom, and then you will get 40 wings of discovery.
Okay.
Which is a key item, which is a item that you can use for mix. So once you have 40 wings of discovery, the game is broken. From this point on, all you have to do is get Riku into limit break mode or overdrive mode for any fight you want to win, and then you mix 2 wings of discovery. And once you mix 2 of them, all of your characters will do 9,999 damage.
What?
For every hit for the rest of the fight. So what you also want to do, there are flame flans in the Calm Lands. You want to rob them.
Okay.
They have fire gems, and fire gems will do 5 hits of fire damage. But when your characters all deal 9,999 damage, that just means they deal 5 hits of 9,999 damage. And that's just a use item. So the way you beat almost every fight from here on out is limit break with Riku, mix 2 wings of discovery, and then have her or Kimari use a fire gem, and then have everyone copycat so that they use the fire gems too. And you'll kill every enemy in like 2 or 3 rounds of combat. It's broken.
It's gloriously broken.
Yes. And any multi-hit item will do to cheese the game this way.
Okay. In a best-case scenario, how long do you think you could beat Final Fantasy X?
How fast could I beat it?
Yeah.
Probably 15 hours, I'd guess, because I haven't hammered out a route.
Oh, man. Next episode will probably be our last podcast, so I'm just going to go down a list. I don't even know if there are any spoilers here. I'm going to go down the list of side quests, and I want you to say yes, no. We'll just belt this out quick. Cave of the Stolen Faith.
Yes.
Airship passwords. Hidden coordinates.
Yes, that's very quick. You just get free items.
I'm not going to do all the Albed primers. Fuck that.
No, that's fine.
No encounters. The ability.
No, it's not worth it. You're almost at the
Celestial weapons.
No, fuck that.
Ramin Temple.
That's where you're going to get the key items. There's another summon there, but you don't have to get it if you don't want to.
Village of the Cactuars.
No, though that is ridiculous.
I'll look into it.
It's dumb. You don't have to do it though.
Optional Aeons.
You should get Anima and you should get Yojimbo. You don't have to get the Magus Sisters.
So, do the Baj Temple?
Do Baj Temple, yes.
Obtain all overdrives.
No.
Omega Ruins.
No.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
Most of these side quests are just combat for combat's sake, and they just kind of suck. That's why I'm telling you, just don't do them.
Okay.
And the Magus Sisters, in order to get that summon, you have to capture all the fiends in the Calm Lands, which is another subsystem. Or no, you have to capture all the fiends.
Son of a bitch.
You have to capture all the fiends in the level after the column lands, and then
that sucks.
it sucks. It sucks. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. It sucks. And then I think you have to like defeat the woman, the summoner lady who you fought, and you have to beat all of the summons she can summon. It sucks. Just don't do it.
You know,
So
gross.
just keep pounding through the game. You're almost done with it. Do you have any predictions?
I wonder. I'm trying to. I'm gonna just try and make a prediction about. I wonder. Okay. I don't think. I'll predict this. Yuna is not going to die because she's in Final Fantasy X too. I just realized that. Okay.
Oh yeah, no shit.
Okay, so I'm gonna try and predict how she survives. Fuck, I think my prediction would be Titus sacrifices himself in place of Yuna. I think the Oron is actually an unsend because he didn't want to go to the far plane. And I think Riku... There's something I want to predict about Riku. I think she's going to save someone's life. Yeah. Save Waka's life so as that his racism is fully... Oh, that's something we didn't talk about is the racism of Waka. It's not that big of a deal. But, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he's just kind of ignorant.
Titus is going to die for... I think Titus is going to sacrifice his life for Yuna. I think that Yuna is not going to die. They're going to find a way. They're going to find a way to justify Final Fantasy X too.
She's a zombie. She's unsent that whole time.
I think that if we're talking about unsent, I think my prediction would also be Oron is an unsent. That would be my last prediction.
All right. So those are good predictions. I will talk to you soon. Till next time.
Peace.
Remember, if you want to get in touch with the show, it's at deeplistenspod, deeplistens.libsyn.com. That is our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. Thank you, ZP.
Yo, we're good.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Peace.